Hello and welcome to Real Person Reviews. I'm Sam and I'm a real person. And today I want to talk to you about Vampire Survivors. Um, it's on multiple platforms. Basically, any modern console right now, or computer, or mobile. You can get it on kind of everything. You can also do cross saves and stuff, whatever. So it's like, yeah, it's very available on whatever you want to get it on. But I played it particularly on the Steam Deck. So I'm just coming at it from that. I also want to preface this by saying that I have played this. It's current year. That you can look at the date of the video. As of right now, this is the base game, so it's not like 1.0 or anything. There's some stuff that's been added. However, I have not gotten any of the DLC, which means I haven't gotten any of the paid DLC or the free DLC that's available to it. But I did everything else that you could do in as far as unlockables, achievements, and stuff in this current base game thing. So that's where we're sitting. And I'm going to do my best to not spoil everything about this also. So we'll see. I guess we'll see how I do. But I think that's all the preface we really need. So let's just get into it. So, Vampire Survivors is sort of an interesting mix of genres because it's kind of like a top-down shooter, but it's also like a roguelike type experience with some RPG elements and a few like idler elements in there as well. And we'll kind of explain that. There's no real story here. There's no like plot or anything. It's basically just you're dropped into a map and you have like the one character you can play as right away, and you're dropped into a map, and you have like a weapon that just automatically attacks at different like fixed intervals. It does its attack pattern. So that's kind of the more idle part of that, is you don't really choose when to attack. It just kind of goes for you. But you can like walk around the map or whatever, and enemies will just slowly approach you from the boundaries of the screen. And killing enemies gives you they sometimes drop experience gems that you can get to level up. And when you level up, you'll be given these level up bonuses. And pretty much all these are going to be in the form of items, either upgrades for your current items that you already have, or they're going to be for new items to add to your loadout. And you can have a total of 6 items of these two different types. There's basically 2 different types of items, I guess you can get. There's weapons and passives. So like weapons are just gonna be things that primarily attack enemies. So having different ones of these all have different attack patterns. Like some attack, like more like close range or long range. Some are projectiles. Some are more like AOE stuff. That's kind of the basic idea of weapons. Whereas the passive items are meant to basically augment your existing weapons or your own stats. So like sometimes they'll make weapons like have shorter cooldowns to attack faster, or have larger areas. Make the projectiles and things bigger so that like it's easier to hit things or increase their damage, stuff like that. As far as your character stats, you can do things like health regeneration, more health, more movement speed. You can increase your pickup range of stuff around you, things like that. Those are like the kind of ideas there. And you can also, like I said, there's only 6 slots for each of these categories. So once you get those slots filled up, you can't get any more of these items from that level up. You'll only be able to level up what you already have. And also, there are sometimes items on the maps as well that you can just find and you can pick those up. So you can get extras that way. You just can't get them through the level up bonus things. Also, if you can actually evolve some of these weapons as well. Typically, to evolve a weapon, you pretty much have to have a weapon, get it to max level, and then also have its corresponding passive item that works with it in order for it to be a prerequisite to that when you'll be able to evolve it when you get like a certain chest. Because sometimes you'll be fighting boss enemies that'll show up. As the waves go on, enemies get like they're tougher. They'll change to different enemy sprites you're fighting and different monsters and things, and then you'll be you'll fight them, and like defeating them, these tougher boss enemies that show up every once in a while, they'll drop chests usually, and the chests will contain gold, but also either like they'll also contain like a a level up for one of your current pieces of equipment, or it'll evolve with those prerequisites met. It'll evolve your weapon into an upgraded weapon with usually just better effects and things, better stats, whatever. And the goal is just to survive for the entire time limit of the particular stage. And thing is, you're likely to fail the first time you do this. Once if you do fail this, you lose all your health and you die. I mean, like, you can kind of mitigate that by there's like usually light sources around, like torches and stuff, whatever. You can destroy those, and then they sometimes drop meat that you can eat for recovering health. There's that way to do it as well as some items allow you to do that. But you're likely going to die your first run through. And once you die, that's when you start seeing the more roguelite elements of this. Because there are some other things in your menu now. You can go to this power-up menu, and from here you can get permanent upgrades for like certain stats and abilities, so that for all characters, so in your subsequent runs, you'll just be able to do more. It'll just be easier and easier as you go on. That's what the gold is used for. It costs the gold, and as you're getting these different things, every time you purchase anything, the cost of everything else around it goes up a little bit. So that's kind of the system that they use. You can also use gold to unlock characters in the character selection menu. And different characters will have their own stats, abilities, and their own starting weapon. You can also get this unlocks menu here that'll have a bunch of things for you to do, a bunch of different criteria, and usually, doing certain things like, beating stages, or when, using certain characters, finding certain items, whatnot, evolving things. There's a lot of different things you can do in this menu. And usually they'll unlock more stages, more characters, more weapons, etc. for you to just be able to find and do and explore as you go forward. There are generally 3 types of stages in the stage selection menu. There's just regular stages you're going through. There are challenge stages, which are a bit more difficult and a little more specialized and focused. And then there are bonus stages, which are just usually a little more unique and interesting, not necessarily difficult. Those are the typical stages you can find and unlock through doing various things. The more that you play, you can also get other things like relics you'll find along the way. These are just kind of in these different stages. So getting these relics, you only have to touch them once and you get to keep them. They're permanent upgrades for everyone. Sometimes they're stat things or items. Other times they're just, most of them are useful, like extra tools for things like giving you a map, or being able to speed up gameplay, or being able to track your collection. You can see all the different things that you've already found and unlocked and stuff. There's usually a lot of helpful gameplay things, just make it easier to track all of your progress and all the things you're trying to do. You can get a thing that actually shows you all the current weapons and items and the evolution chart thing, basically, of all the things you have and have already discovered. So there's lots of things like that you can find as well. So the more you play, basically, the more things you'll unlock, the more stages you'll find. There is actually a final level, a final boss, but either that or getting all of the unlocks finished is going to be kind of your ending here. There's also a number of different modes and modifiers you can unlock along the way as well that can make it easier or harder or just different. Some of them are just make it more like random and different for you. So there's a lot of different replayability there. You also can unlock, and I believe this is probably part of one of the updates, you can unlock adventures, which is in this version that I played right now, at least, there are 3 adventures you unlock, and essentially what those are like, I guess I would refer to them as sort of like a New Game Plus of sorts, where in each adventure, while your relics will carry over, you don't really carry anything else over. So you're starting with limited characters and items, and you'll have to use gold and reobtain all these power-ups that you want to do to upgrade yourself here. You're kind of like restarting at square one almost. Maybe starting at square 2, I guess. Think of it that way. And essentially, there are a few unlocks just for beating these in the main game, which are, I don't want to spoil what you're getting there. I'm trying to avoid as much spoilers and things that you're unlocking as possible, because that's a lot of the fun, is just seeing what new stuff pops up. But it doesn't affect much in the main game, nor does the main game affect much there. I think the only thing that would cross over are any relics you find in one will be obtained in the other as well. So that's a different way to do those things, I guess. Um, Also with these, once you finish all of the progress, there's a little progress tab here, and once you finish all of the challenges, missions, or whatever in the progress tab of an adventure, you have the option to ascend, and if you do that, it restarts the adventure, and then you get an ascension point to put into like some other like stat bonus or something to continue on to make it easier the next time, or whatever, or at least different the next time you do it. But I think that's pretty much everything. Like I say, you're mostly trying to see the final boss or get all of the unlocks and secrets and stuff unlocked and ticked off in the achievements and whatever. Um, and I will say the game does this really, really well. It's very well paced. Um, I think that's probably the biggest compliment I can give to this game is that it's paced super well. There's just the way that you start off with a few characters and a few items, and you're like, oh, I kind of get this, I understand this, I see what I'm doing now, I can do this, and you're like, this actually isn't going to be too bad, and then like you unlock, oh, there's more stuff, and I feel like every time you're like, okay, well, because it keeps things simple enough so you kind of like figure things out in pieces rather than like having all the information flooding you and overwhelming you at once is good, because like then it did really feel like, like, oh, I get this, I think I'm like near the end of this thing, and then something else would open up and uncover more possibilities and more things to do, and so it just kind of kept evolving and increasing as it goes along. I think that's done really well. They even keep the unlocks menu looks small, but it keeps getting additional things as you unlock access to more things that you can unlock now that you have the appropriate like relics or whatever to do that. That's really it's really cool the way they do that. And it's also super fun to just test out different characters and different items and combinations, not just finding the evolutions and things, but also like um, learning cool like synergies for things, trying to see like what kind of weapons or what kind of like abilities and things are going to synergize well, especially with certain stages and challenges I'm trying to do. These things kind of like makes you think more about what you're doing. It's got actually a lot of strategy in it for something that is still kind of like simple enough with like the idler kind of gameplay of like I'm just moving my character around and they're doing the attacks themselves. How do I make my character do things that are even better? And also like um the sense of like just like again the like the whole like genre like melding is melded in a really interesting way of like I'm still like doing the action things of moving around and trying to like I'm still involved trying to make the right dodges and move myself in the right positions at the right times and make the right selections of items is more like the strategy part of how I want these things to go. And also like there's still kind of the RNG element of like what is the game going to give me for options and things to do. One thing I didn't mention also is you can unlock like arcanas, which are like these overall passive things that are very strong, but you only get a few of them per match. That's another thing you can add in there that also radically changes your strategy. But then also, like I say, like the RPG kind of like roguelite element to it. It's roguelike in the sense that you're restarting the stuff over and over again. It is the same stuff on each map basically every time you start it. But roguelite because you can get those like RPG-esque upgrades. You're leveling up in the game, like each round or whatever, but you're also getting the RPG like thing of like the roguelite. I'm getting these permanent upgrades from playing, so it's going to be easier next time, so I can always make progress and go. You can even get these like golden eggs, either purchasing them with like extra gold or like certain enemies will sometimes drop them, and if you get a golden egg it adds like a small stat modifier to like a random stat. That's another way you can keep powering yourself up in case it's too hard or whatever currently. You can have ways to mitigate it. If your strategy isn't quite cutting it, you can just kind of like try to use that to power yourself up enough to do more. So there's a lot. Yeah, there's a lot of like really good. I also think they've thought of like like a lot of cool things here. Like they've obviously thought of like, okay, it would be really handy to have like this resource, like see my evolutions and track my progress and my collection. And they try to give you all the tools to like, even if they kind of like slowly give them to you, but it's like, it would be nice if I had this. If there's ever a point where you're like, it would be nice if I had this or if I could do this. A lot of times they're going to give you that at some point in the game, like, oh, that's really nice. Or like, if you do something really difficult to unlock a character, usually they're going to give you a character that is worth that difficulty or an item that's worth that difficulty because it's going to be really good and really useful. So they make it really feel actually satisfying and rewarding to do the more difficult stuff in the first place. I think that's also a really, really good thing. It gives you incentives and motivation to keep going. It rewards you for doing this. So you want to find new stuff even more because you know it's gonna like be good. You're gonna be rewarded for the effort you're putting in. That's like pretty big. So it's very very well done, and also done all in the style, the Castlevania styling and stuff. I think that's like it's obviously wearing that on its sleeve. It has Castlevania DLC eventually too, but like even just in the base game, you're like, okay, it's very Castlevania in its aesthetic and its presentation. So if you like that, you'll like that. I did. Um, and yes, I just think it is very well designed, especially for a game that doesn't give you any bullshit. It's just kind of like, all right, you don't really need a story for this. You go in and you go. And once you get to like those late game builds, and you have enemies all around you, and it's just like you're emanating a bullet hell out of your body. You're like, that was awesome. I made this really good build. I got this far, and I was able to beat this stage because I did all that. It was really cool. So like I do think there's like a ton of that, and like in playability and replayability, it keeps it fresh enough just to beat it, and has a lot to keep going if you want to keep going after that, even without having to get any DLC. So that's all that stuff is like really really good. Um, uh, but it does have a few issues. Like I don't have a whole lot of issues with this game. To be fair, it's mostly very good. As I've been saying, but like I will say that there are a few things that are kind of like annoying. One of my biggest ones is probably going to be the adventures thing. I don't really care for this, mostly because adventures just feel like a unsatisfactory new game plus type of idea. I probably would rather just, if I want to restart my progress, I would probably rather just restart all my progress of the main game instead than like go into these like half-assed things. The idea of it being kind of challenging, of like limited characters and stuff, is kind of taken away when you can eventually like get more character. Like you can't get any more characters, I guess, but you can get more items or whatever. So like there's other ways to like, I don't know, like there's other ways to kind of like make it easier within there. The Ascension also makes it easier, so like the idea of it making it more challenging isn't necessarily true either, to some extent. You also have all these different like modes and modifiers and stuff and limitations you could impose upon yourself if you want to in the main game to make it more challenging if you were doing it for the challenge as well. So I think any of the things that this could do are really satisfied by just other options already available in the main game. I don't know that this was a super great addition. It is more content. It just felt kind of like filler, and I wouldn't have done it if it wasn't part of unlocks in the main game, which doesn't really unlock anything good either, so I don't know that there's much point to it other than throwing people a bone who didn't want to get the DLC, I guess, is probably the idea. I also think it gets pretty hectic visually sometimes, especially certain abilities and things can get kind of crazy with tons of enemies on the screen all flashing and everything, and it's hard to see, it's sometimes where you are or what enemies are where, or it's hard to see if there's stuff on like the ground. It's also easy to get, like, it's hard to, of all the sound stuff, which is pretty good, one of the hardest things to hear is when you're getting hit. It seems like the damaged, you're getting hurt noise is super low in the mix. That's a kind of a problem. They should probably bump that up, make it more apparent. They're like, oh yes, you're getting hurt right now. I've had times where all of a sudden like my screen just like stops. Like, what happened? I was like, oh, it's because I got chewed through by something. I didn't even know I was getting hurt the entire time. So I wasn't, watching my character super intently in the middle of the screen. It can get kind of hectic like that. Also, some of the like secret unlock things. Like, I mean, some of the character unlocks, I'll admit it. Like, most of them are pretty good. Some of them are very novelty characters that are just not very good, or only super situationally good. They're just like not really probably worth your time to fiddle around with to make them good. They're more for like, again, the novelty, the randomness, or the challenge. They're just not great. Also, most of the early game characters, by the time you get to late game, will just fall off really hard, and because their stats are so bad, and you can just get all the stuff they can get with other characters that are better. So, like, that's a little disappointing. It makes sense with the progression of it, I guess, but it's a little disappointing. And I also think that, like, yeah, some of the secrets in that secret menu to do are ridiculous. Like, eventually I started just looking, like, some of them I did fair and square, but eventually I started just looking them up. I would be like, do I have to do this? And I would look it up and be like, oh, I actually do this, or yes, I do this. And I still had to do it, but I looked them up. You can also just put in cheat codes to get some of them, and I will admit that there's one where you pretty much have to do that. I mean, I guess there's one that basically even says, like, the hint text, it's just like you have to look it up. It's essentially what it says. And so you can decide if you want to, you look it up and it's like, well, you have two options. You can do this ridiculous set of tasks that you'll never naturally do by accident to unlock this in the game. You will never figure out, or just put in this code. And I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna put in the code because I don't feel like trying to do this thing and seeing if that thing works. Because it's the thing I'm doing is not even like beat this or do something in the level or whatever. It's like fiddling with like stupid shit in menus. I'm like, I don't know, I'm just gonna put in the code. Um, so there's a little bit of disappointment there. Um, I think that yeah, there's definitely a few rough edges where it maybe could be a little better. Um, they could have maybe rounded a little bit of that out. All that being said, um, I do think that Vampire Survivors is still really really good. I think they've really nailed it, especially well, to the point where this melding of like elements of these different genres, making it like a oh, it's an idler and a roguelite RPG top down shooter thing. The way that they've weaved these things together almost has become, I guess we'll see in a few years, has almost become genre defining to the point where right now there are a lot of games that like are like Survivors clones or just put Survivors in the title and are doing very similar things to this because it was so popular. In fact, that's also making my review a little pointless because I don't know how many people are going to be looking to me to be like, I was wondering if I should get this game, but I'm seeing if Sam says it's a good game first. You probably have already heard about it and seen it and been like, it sounds great, I'm going to play it. But if you're still on the fence about it, yes, I absolutely recommend this. It's done very, very well. And the game is like usually like $15 or something most of the time at full price, which is crazy. Um, it's a really good deal, I think, especially if you want to have a bit of a new take on roguelikes and you're like, well, this is something that's a little bit different and new. Maybe it's a way for people who like idlers to kind of like shift slowly into more action oriented games, but don't quote me on that. It might be too much for you to jump right into this. I'm not sure. Um, but it definitely is worth getting on whatever platform you have, especially because you can get an account and have it follow you around to different platforms if you want as well. That's also really cool. Um, and it's cool to see something like this become such a success, and it's really fun. And then it got really lots of cool DLC. I didn't play any of the co-op because I just didn't really have anyone to play it with and didn't really think about it. I kept forgetting it had co-op, so I can't speak on that. Also, for the DLC, I'm going to say this right up front. I'm probably not going to play the DLC. I'm probably not going to review that. I know there's free DLC, and I want to also give them a little big shout here in that for the paid DLC, there are no achievements for the paid DLC. There are achievements for the free DLC. So I got all the things I could get in the base game. If I got the free DLC, I could have worked on those achievements too. And that's really cool that you don't have to like pay to like you're not paywalled out of getting all the complete like Steam achievements for it. I think that's really cool, but they still have the unlocks and whatever in the game so that you're still like doing your checklist of things in there, so you don't like miss out on basically the same things since they would line up with each other before anyways. That's awesome. Um, but I'm probably not going to do the DLC just because like, well, for one, I do worry that if I do that, that it will be a bit long in the tooth and be like, okay, I've played way too much of this game. It's not enough different, enough new for me to like continue playing it because I played it for like over 100 hours. I mean, like it's a little inflated because I left it down a few times, but it's like over 100 hours that I played this thing, which is at least. So and it didn't feel like it. It was like all month. Lined up well with ASMR August. I just as I was doing that all month, I was doing this, and I just kind of finished it near the end. That's cool, but yeah, I'm probably not going to do the DLC number two. Reason number two is because I had to delete all my progress to get that footage that you saw, which also to do, you have to go into like the options menu and click on profile like 8 times. Then it gives you the option that you can delete and say yes to that like 5 times, and then it deletes your stuff. I did that. Um, and yeah, it deleted it, so I don't have my progress anymore. So I don't want to like replay the entirety of the game to get that to then to do the DLC stuff. So I probably am not going to review the DLC. I would imagine that it's one of those where you're going to know by the end of the game, hey, if you just get the base game and you're like, hey, I want to play a ton more of this, DLC. And if you're like, you know what, that's good, I'm satisfied, then you stop, like I did. But yeah, definitely recommended to most people if you're curious of getting it. If it looks like it'll be fun, it probably is. Um, that's all. That's all I had, I think, for that. So let me know what you guys think. What are your favorite items and builds for the game? Let me know about that. Also, tell me about the DLC if you have it, and if you've played co-op. Tell me about those things and how you feel about them, how you like them, how they work. you know, maybe you'll sell me on them. But I don't know. It would just be fun to talk about because I just played it for how many hours. So like, yeah, I feel like I have had a few things to say. I said most of them here, but that's it. That's it for this. Um, I got to play this both docked and handheld because my Steam Deck has been glitching out in handheld mode, so I had to switch to docked for the latter like half of this game. So silver lining, I got to see both. It works the same on either one, so it's not really that exciting, I guess, but it's something, and it is not nothing. So at the end of the day is over and the night begins. What a wonderful night to have a curse.